to their understanding of the proper role of a judge. I believe that these character traits and this range of experience will enable them to effectively serve the people of Pennsylvania. I'm therefore pleased to rise today to speak on their behalf and to urge all of my colleagues to support their confirmation.
On that point, he's absolutely right. They were reported out of the Senate Judiciary Committee on July 21st unanimously. They were cleared that day on the Democratic side. We were perfectly willing to bring them up and voice vote them that day or the next day or the day after. We were perfectly willing to have them voice or voted in August before we went out. We were perfectly willing to have them voted in September. We're perfectly willing to have them voted early in October. Because of your support and Senator Casey's support, for some reason, that has not been cleared on your side of the aisle. I'll be happy to work with my friend from Pennsylvania. After all, we each have the same first name, and we will try to clear them. What you said about them is absolutely true. These are the kind of judges, whether you had a Republican or a Democratic president, you'd be proud to have on the bench. And I pledge to work with both the senators in Pennsylvania to get them through.
Well, I thank the chairman, and it's my understanding that we're going to vote this evening on Judge Bassoon, and that and I would certainly enjoy the opportunity of working closely with the chairman to ensure that we could have votes as soon as possible on the other nominees. With that, I yield the floor.
President.
The senator from Vermont. This one. Under the previous order, the Senate will proceed to executive session to consider the following nomination, which the clerk will report.
Nomination, the judiciary, Kathy Bassoon of Pennsylvania to be United States District Judge for the Western District of Pennsylvania.
Ayes and nays been ordered.
No, they have not.
Request the ayes and nays.
Is there a sufficient second? There appears to be. The ayes and nays are ordered.
Mr. President, I ask consent to put my full statement in the record because I see the senior senator from Pennsylvania on the floor wishes to speak. I'm going to yield to him in just a moment. But first, I'd ask consent that I speak briefly about the Transportation and Highway Appropriations Bill that the Senate is going to next be debating.
Without objection.
I want to thank the subcommittee chair, Senator Murray, and the ranking member, Senator Collins, for all the assistance that they provided me on several issues that are particularly important to Vermont, especially in the wake of Hurricane Irene's massive devastation just a few short weeks ago. I've talked many, many times on the floor about what happened in Vermont in Hurricane Irene. I was born in Vermont. I have never seen anything like this. It reminds me of the stories my grandparents told me of a flood in the early part of the 20th century, the flood of 27. What we've seen here, roads, bridges, homes, businesses, farms all over the state wiped out. Pair estimates topping $900 million. As I've traveled around the state, both my wife and I have gone all over the state. I've gone with the governor, with the adjutant general and others, seeing things that literally brought me to tears. In our beautiful, beautiful state, getting hit like that, and it's very clear as I've talked to the people working who everybody's pitched in, whether they're from the town that get hit or the next town over that might not have been hit. Everybody's pitched in. But it's clear that in a little state of 660,000 people, we're stretched to the limit. If we don't have adequate federal disaster recovery aid, Vermont won't have the resources needed to rebuild the lifelines these destroyed roads, homes, and businesses represent in the daily lives of so many Vermonters and their communities. Several federal disaster programs are woefully underfunded. The Federal Highway Administration's Emergency Relief Fund has less than $140 million left in reserves. It has a backlog of more than $2 billion repair projects from previous disasters, including $700 million from Vermont. HUD has no available funding to provide community block grant funding to help our state rebuild. So I pushed hard for $1.9 billion in emergency highway funding and for the state waivers that allow states to access the repair work they need without overly restrictive cost-sharing requirements. I've talked with Governor Shumlin, Senator Sanders, Congressman Welch, other state municipal officials across Vermont about Vermont's rebuilding needs. The governor was down here last week. We sat in my office and talked about the needs. These waivers are at the top of the priority list, or our little state's going to be devastated. Now, there's also in this bill provisions to permanently shift heavy trucks from overburdened state secondary roads, some of which are now turned into dirt roads because of the flooding. They wind through many downtowns across our state and put these heavy trucks on our interstate highways. That's going to help Vermont businesses and communities that are struggling from the large number of state and local roads heavily damaged by Irene. I was glad to work with Senator Collins to include a Vermont provision and a similar provision in Maine in this. Again, bipartisan cooperation that succeeded. We've also included $400 million in emergency CDBG funding. It's a critical down payment to address housing needs of those hurt by Irene and flooding this past spring. We've got to do this right away. It will be snowing in Vermont in a matter of weeks. The day's beautiful there today. I've lived there long enough to know if you don't like the weather, wait a minute, it'll change. And it will get cold. We've got to get people back into their homes. So Vermonters are working hard to make the necessary funding, but we need this. We need this help. As a Vermonter said to me, you know, Senator, it appears we can spend unlimited amounts of money to rebuild roads and bridges in Iraq and Afghanistan. They just blow them up. Can't we find even a small portion of that money to rebuild roads and bridges and homes in America, by Americans, for Americans, and we Americans will protect them? And I thank the distinguished senior senator from Pennsylvania, and I yield to him.
Mr. President.
The senator from Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak in favor of the nomination of Judge Kathy Bassoon. I'd ask consent for two requests. One request to speak for no more than 10 minutes, and the second request is to submit a fuller statement for the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. I first of all want to thank Senator Leahy, our chairman of the Judiciary Committee, working with both parties to move these nominations along. Senator Toomey, my colleague from Pennsylvania, for his work and cooperation moving our Pennsylvania judicial nominees forward. I'm grateful for his help and his cooperation. I rise to speak about Judge Kathy Bassoon, who is a daughter of Brooklyn, New York, born there and became a Pennsylvanian after law school. Kathy Bassoon is of Hispanic origin. Her mother was from the West Indies, and her dad was from Puerto Rico. When she was just 4 years old and living in the Williamsburg section of Brooklyn, her father was stabbed to death in a park blocks from her home. Her mother remarried and her family moved to Queens. And as I mentioned before, she moved to Pittsburgh after law school. This is a remarkable American story, an American story of academic achievement, of overcoming obstacles, and of striving for excellence. Her educational background is stellar as well. She received her Juris Doctorate degree in 1993 from Harvard Law School after receiving her degree in political science summa cum laude in 1990 from Alfred University in Alfred, New York. A quick summary of her career is as follows. Her service as a United States magistrate judge for the Western District of Pennsylvania, a position that she held in the court's Pittsburgh division since the year 2008. From 2007 until her appointment to the bench, Judge Bassoon was in private practice in Pittsburgh as a director of the law firm of Cohen and Grigsby, where she served as the head of the Labor and Employment Group. Previously, she was a partner in the law firm of Reed Smith from 2001 to 2007, and an associate in that same firm beginning in 1993. So a long record of service as a lawyer and advocate, and someone whose career has been marked by distinction in the law as well as a judge. She also served as the Reed Smith Law Firm's Director of Diversity for 6 years, a diversity initiative that she developed to recruit, retain, and promote minority lawyers. From 1994 to 95, she was a law clerk for the Honorable Gary L. Lancaster of the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Pennsylvania. So this is a nomination, I think, that has not only received bipartisan support, but it's a nomination that I think we can all be proud to advance and to vote on today. And I'd urge all my colleagues to give an affirmative vote to Judge Bassoon. Let me just quickly, because I know we're limited to time, we will be, as my colleague Senator Toomey mentioned a couple of moments ago, we will be moving, we hope, soon to the consideration of 2 other nominees, and I want to put some comments on the record for both of those. And there'll be more in my written statement. But first, Mark Hornak, Mark Raymond Hornak, who was born in Homestead, Pennsylvania. He received his law degree summa cum laude in 1981 from the University of Pittsburgh School of Law, graduated second in his class, and was editor-in-chief of the University of Pittsburgh Law Review. He received his undergraduate degree also, in this case cum laude, in 1978 from the University of Pittsburgh, was a member of an honor society, a National Merit Scholar, and on the Dean's List. His career is as follows. He was a partner in the law firm of Buchanan, Ingersoll & Rooney since 1982, where he specializes in civil litigation, labor and employment law, media defense, governmental representation, and is a member of the firm's executive committee. And I'll, as I said before, include other references to his career as a lawyer and advocate. And I've known Mark for a long, long time, known him to be a person of integrity and someone who would serve our state with distinction in the Western District of Pennsylvania. And then finally, someone I've known a very long time, for over 20 years, Robert David Mariani. Bob Mariani has been in practice as a civil litigator in my hometown of Scranton for some 34 years. His educational background is equally distinguished as our other nominees. Received his law degree cum laude in 1976 from Syracuse University School of Law, or College of Law, I should say, and his undergraduate degree in 1972 from Villanova University, also cum laude. Since 2001, he's been the sole shareholder in the law firm of Robert D. Mariani, P.C. He's been an instructor for 5 years in the Union Leadership Academy program sponsored by Penn State University, and finally was sole proprietor in his own law firm from 1993 to 2001, and then, of course, partner in the same firm, or similar firm named by the name of Mariani and Greco from 79 to 93. When my father served as governor of Pennsylvania, he nominated Bob Mariani in 1993 to fill a vacancy on the Pennsylvania Superior Court, a great honor, and I know how high his standards were. So Bob Mariani comes to this appointment with great distinction, a long and distinguished career in the law, and I know he'll be a great judge in the Middle District of Pennsylvania. So, Mr. President, I'll conclude by saying that I could say more about Judge Bassoon, I could say more about Mark Hornak and Bob Mariani, but their record will be amplified by written commentary of their record and their achievements. But I'm grateful for each of them putting themselves forward for public service on our federal bench, and we're looking forward today to a strong vote for Judge Bassoon when we get to her vote this afternoon. With that, I would yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka.
Mr. President,
The senator from Pennsylvania.
I would ask that the quorum call be vitiated.
Without objection. All time has expired. The question is on the nomination. The yeas and nays were previously ordered. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka, Mr. Alexander, Ms. Ayotte, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Baucus, Mr. Begich, Mr. Bennett, Mr. Bingaman, Mr. Blumenthal, Mr. Blunt, Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Boxer, Mr. Brown of Massachusetts, Mr. Brown of Ohio, Mr. Burr, Ms. Cantwell, Mr. Cardin, Mr. Carper, Mr. Casey. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Coates. Mr. Coburn. Mr. Cochran. Ms. Collins. Mr. Conrad. Mr. Coons. Mr. Corker. Mr. Cornyn. Mr. Crapo. Mr. Dement. Mr. Durbin. Mr. Enzi. Mrs. Feinstein. Mr. Franken. Mrs. Gillibrand. Mr. Graham. Mr. Grassley. Mrs. Hagan. Mr. Harkin. Mr. Hatch. Mr. Heller. Mr. Hoven. Mrs. Hutchison. Mr. Inhofe. Mr. Inouye. Mr. Isaacson. Mr. Johans. Mr. Johnson of Wisconsin. Mr. Johnson of South Dakota. Mr. Kerry. Mr. Kirk. Ms. Klobuchar. Mr. Cole. Mr. Kyle. Ms. Landrieu. Mr. Lautenberg. Mr. Leahy. Mr. Lee. Mr. Levin. Mr. Lieberman. Mr. Lugar. Mr. Manchin. Mr. McCain. Mrs. McCaskill. Mr. McConnell. Mr. Menendez. Mr. Merkley. Ms. Mikulski. Mr. Moran. Ms. Murkowski. Mrs. Murray. Mr. Nelson of Nebraska. Mr. Nelson of Florida. Mr. Paul. Mr. Portman. Mr. Pryor. Mr. Reed of Rhode Island. Mr. Reed of Nevada. Mr. Risch. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Rockefeller. Mr. Rubio. Mr. Sanders. Mr. Schumer. Mr. Sessions. Mrs. Shaheen. Mr. Shelby. Ms. Snow. Ms. Stabenow. Mr. Tester. Mr. Thune. Mr. Toomey. Mr. Udall of Colorado. Mr. Udall of New Mexico. Mr. Vitter. Mr. Warner. Mr. Webb. Mr. Whitehouse. Mr. Wicker. Mr. Wyden. Senators voting in the affirmative: Barrasso, Begich, Bingaman, Blunt, Boxer, Brown of Massachusetts, Cardin, Casey, Coates, Collins, Conrad, Coons, Cornyn, Durbin, Franken, Hagan, Johans, Kerry, Cole, Leahy, Mikulski, Murray, Reed of Rhode Island, Reed of Nevada, Roberts, Sessions, Tester, Thune, Vitter. No senator voted in the negative. Ms. Stabenow, aye. Mr. Schumer. Mr. Schumer, aye. Mr. Inouye. Mr. Inouye, aye. Mr. Menendez. Mr. Menendez, aye. Mr. Toomey, aye. Mr. Bennett, aye. Mr. McConnell. Mr. McConnell, aye. Mr. Paul, no. Mr. Levin, aye. Mr. Cochran, aye. Mr. Johnson of South Dakota, aye. Mr. Johnson of Wisconsin, aye. Mr. Coburn, aye. Mrs. Hutchison, aye. Mr. Warner, aye. Ms. Snow, aye. Mr. Lugar, aye. Mr. Lee, aye. Mr. McCain, aye. Ms. Ayotte, aye. Mr. Grassley. Mr. Grassley. Aye. Mrs. Shaheen. Mrs. Shaheen. Aye. Mr. Corker. Mr. Corker. Aye. Mr. Pryor. Mr. Pryor. Aye. Mr. Sanders. Mr. Sanders. Aye. Mr. Alexander. Mr. Alexander. Aye. Mr. Merkley. Mr. Merkley. Aye. Kyle. Mr. Kyle. Aye. Mr. Enzi. Mr. Enzi. Aye. Mr. Blumenthal. Mr. Blumenthal. Aye. Mrs. Gillibrand. Mrs. Gillibrand. Aye. Ms. Murkowski. Ms. Murkowski. Aye. Mr. Bozeman. Mr. Bozeman. Aye. Mr. Kirk. Mr. Kirk. Aye. Mr. Inhofe. Mr. Inhofe. No. Mr. Moran. Mr. Moran. Aye. Mr. Manchin. Mr. Manchin. Aye. Mr. Shelby. Mr. Shelby. Aye. Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown of Ohio. Aye. Mr. Akaka. Mr. Akaka. Aye. Mr. Portman. Mr. Portman. Aye. Ms. Landrieu. Ms. Landrieu. Aye. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chambliss. Aye. Mr. Hoven. Mr. Hoven. Aye. Mr. Nelson of Nebraska. Mr. Nelson of Nebraska. Aye. Mr. Lautenberg. Mr. Lautenberg. Aye. Mr. Carper. Mr. Carper. Aye. Mr. Udall of Colorado. Mr. Udall of Colorado. Aye. Mr. Whitehouse. Mr. Whitehouse. Aye. Mr. Lieberman. Mr. Lieberman. Aye. Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson of Florida. Aye. Mr. Rockefeller. Mr. Rockefeller. Aye. Mrs. Feinstein. Mrs. Feinstein. Aye. Mr. Blunt. Mr. Blunt. No. Mr. Baucus. Mr. Baucus. Aye. Mr. Crapo. Mr. Crapo. Aye. Mr. Harkin. Mr. Harkin. Aye.
on this.
Thank you.
And then here you go.
Is there any senator wishing to vote or change their vote? If not, on this vote, the yeas are 82, the nays are 3. The nomination is confirmed. Under the previous order, the motions to reconsider are considered made and laid upon the table. The President will be immediately notified of the Senate's action, and the Senate will resume legislative session.
Mr. President.
The senator from Maine.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, shortly, along with the senator from Colorado, I'm going to discuss an amendment to the Agriculture Appropriations Bill that we've introduced. But first, I'm going to yield to the senator from Texas for the purpose of his introducing an amendment.
Mr. President.
The senator from Texas.
Mr. President, I thank the senator from Maine. I have an amendment at the desk. I'd ask that it be called up and ask for its immediate consideration.
Without objection, the pending amendment is set aside. Clerk will report the amendment.
The senator from Texas, Mr. Cornyn, proposes amendment number 775 to amendment number 738.
Mr. President, I ask that further reading of the amendment be dispensed with.
Without objection.
And Mr. President, I'll be back tomorrow to talk about the substance of my amendment, but at this point I'll yield the floor, and I thank the senator from Maine.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise this evening to discuss an amendment number 757 that I have offered with my colleague from Colorado, Senator Mark Udall, that would protect the flexibility of schools to serve healthy vegetables in the National School Lunch and School Breakfast programs. Mr. President, this is a bipartisan amendment that we're offering. It's co-sponsored by Senators Crapo, Risch, Snowe, Ayotte, Wyden, Johanns, Nelson of Nebraska, Mikulski, and Hoeven. Mr. President, earlier this year, the U.S. Department of Agriculture proposed a rule that would limit servings of a certain category of vegetables that includes white potatoes, corn, peas, and lima beans. It would limit them to a total of 1 cup per week in the National School Lunch Program. The proposed rule would also ban this category of vegetables altogether from the school breakfast program. Our bipartisan amendment would prevent the Department of Agriculture from moving forward with this arbitrary limitation. I'm concerned that the proposed rule would impose significant costs on schools and would limit the flexibility that they need to serve nutritious, affordable meals to their students. Now, for those who are less familiar with this issue, let me give my colleagues some background. Current law already requires the school lunch and breakfast programs to follow the most recent dietary guidelines for Americans. Last year, the USDA released the newest dietary guidelines that called for all Americans of all ages to eat more vegetables. The 2010 dietary guidelines list 4 nutrients of concern. They are potassium, dietary fiber, calcium, and vitamin D. The guidelines state that dietary intake of these 4 nutrients are low enough to be of public health concern for both adults and children. Since USDA is concerned about a lack of these nutrients in the American diet, it would make sense for the department to promote good sources of these critical nutrients. Yet, Mr. President, The USDA's proposed rule would actually limit vegetables that are good sources of these nutrients. USDA should not limit their availability, but instead should encourage their healthy preparation. For example, here are some nutritional facts about potatoes that are often overlooked. Potatoes, if we could have the other chart, potatoes have more potassium than bananas, a food commonly associated with this nutrient. Potatoes are cholesterol-free, low in fat and sodium, and can be served in countless healthy ways. In fact, a medium baked potato contains 15% of the daily recommended value of fiber. That's one of those nutrients of concern. 27% of the daily recommended value for vitamin B6. 28% of the daily recommended amount of vitamin C. This is a great nutritional bargain at about a nickel per serving. Now, Mr. President, I'm going to go on and discuss the rest of the problems with this rule and the solution, but I know that my colleague from Colorado is under a time constraint. So at this point, I'm going to yield to him, my partner in this endeavor, for his statement, and then I will reclaim the floor and continue with my discussion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from Colorado.
I thank the Senator from Maine for her graciousness and for her leadership on this important amendment that she and I brought to the floor. Clearly, the 2012 Ag Appropriations Bill that will direct the USDA to provide adequate flexibility for schools to deliver students nutritious school meals while effectively managing costs is very, very important. But we've got to do it in the right way, and I want to just share my thinking on what the right way is. In January of this year, the USDA issued a proposed rule for nutrition standards in the National School Lunch and School Breakfast programs that would limit total servings of certain vegetables, most notably potatoes, corn, green peas, and lima beans, to 1 cup per week and eliminate potatoes from school breakfasts. And I've heard from school lunch providers in Colorado that this restriction will result in significant challenges for food service operations through increased costs, reduced flexibility, and decreased school meal participation. Now, this is especially concerning for them in my state, and I think, as the Senator from Maine has pointed out, all over our country, because school districts are facing increasingly tight budgets. Many children from Colorado and across the nation depend on school meal programs to keep them nourished and ready to learn. And that's why it is important for school meals to include healthy food options, while then also allowing sufficient flexibility to school meal providers to help build a foundation for healthy eating going forward. In order to achieve this goal, a very worthy goal, it's important that we implement the bipartisan child nutrition reauthorization that the Congress passed last year. And in order to ensure that that implementation is successful for both kids and schools, it's important that the USDA takes into consideration the insights and the experiences of those who are in the school cafeterias every day across America serving meals to our children. These are well-trained and qualified individuals who see our children, our students, on a daily basis. They know their parents, and they very well may be parents of students themselves. And here's what they're saying, Mr. President. And I'll read to you from a letter that the Colorado School Nutrition Association sent me recently regarding this proposed rule. Quote, "We believe it is a realistic and attainable goal to create meal plans that meet the current dietary guidelines for Americans while allowing schools the flexibility to manage costs and maintain student participation. Improved nutrition is a vital aspect of our nation's health, one which we heartily support, and we believe it can be accomplished without significant damage to the programs we are trying to improve and without additional strain on local schools." End of quote. Mr. President, that is what the Collins-Udall amendment intends to do. It would direct the USDA to not set maximum limits on the frequency that schools can serve any one fruit or vegetable, while allowing schools to continue to moderate portion size appropriately. Our amendment will also ensure that schools have the flexibility to serve healthy fruits and vegetables in a manner consistent with guidelines established jointly by the USDA and the Department of Health and Human Services called the Dietary Guidelines for Americans. Now, some wonder why Senator Collins and I have taken such issue with this proposed rule. And yes, we both do come from potato-producing states, and we both believe that potatoes have gotten a bad rap. The truth is that when prepared properly, the potato can provide critical nutrients to students that will help them lead healthy lives and be ready to learn in the classroom. And in some areas, increased flexibility to serve this nutritious and available vegetable can actually help schools manage costs so they can afford to purchase other more expensive vegetables. Where I believe school meal providers, potato producers, and health advocates can agree is that this issue is less about any one vegetable and more about the preparation of the vegetable. Anything can be fried or drowned in any number of fats available to us as consumers, let's be honest. Even Agriculture Secretary Vilsack agreed in testimony before the Senate Agricultural Appropriations Committee that it's not the potato, it's in the way in which potatoes are being prepared and provided. We should be encouraging schools to prepare potatoes and other fruits and vegetables appropriately, not limiting their flexibility and potentially increasing their costs unnecessarily. Now, Mr. President, I've spent a good portion of my time in the U.S. Congress working to promote physical activity, get children and families into the great outdoors, and reduce the amount of time children spend in front of the TV and video games. Through my Healthy Kids from Day One Act and the National Kids to Parks initiative, I focused on getting kids to eat healthier and become more active. And another way we promote healthy lifestyles is making sure that kids have access to needed nutrients and balanced meals. That's why Congress, that's us, directed the USDA to ensure that all fruits and vegetables are part of federal food nutrition programs, particularly school meal programs. I believe, I know Senator Collins believes, there's a balance that we can find here, a balance that preserves needed flexibility for our cash-strapped schools, but also preserves guidelines that will ensure our kids are getting the best nutrients possible in their school meals, including from the potato. So instead of pointing fingers, we need to provide common-sense solutions that help schools, kids, and their parents make wise choices that in turn will make a healthier America. A healthy country is a strong country. And I believe that this amendment is an important tool to ensure that our schools can be an active and effective participant in ensuring our children are healthy, well cared for, and ready to become the next leaders in our goal of winning the global economic race. I thank the Senator from Maine for yielding time. I look forward to continuing to work with her until we reach a successful conclusion and our amendment is agreed to. I thank the Senator.